Hello, my name is Brian Cockell and welcome to our video. So today we're doing a basic tutorial on Excel. And a lot of people today are starting a home-based business, especially because of COVID, spending lots of time at home and looking for stuff to do. So we've started a video series to help you start and run a successful home-based business. The prior COO of one of Canada's largest private companies, which is now the fourth largest public company in my industry, and I left all that behind to start artisan, handmade, natural soap making and skincare product company. And we're going to share some of the stuff we've learned in our journey. I am in the doghouse. We do have 8 Maremma sheepdogs. And Sky wanted to come in for a snooze, and Cedar's at my feet. There are 2 puppies. So today as we go along, we're going to work with in Excel. It's going to be a basic standard tutorial, and we're going to have make a sample project of a costing sheet. So if you're starting a home-based business, it doesn't matter what you're making, dog treats, wood carvings, jewelry, soap, you need to know how much that stuff costs so you know how much to sell it for. So today we're gonna do that sample project. If you like our video, please subscribe to the channel. That'll help me make more content for you, and as well there's a little bell. You can click that little bell down in the just below the video, and that'll give you notification after you subscribe future videos that we do post in our series. So it would be helpful if you did that for us too. So we're going to, if you don't have Excel, Excel of course is the Microsoft spreadsheet program. You can use Google Docs, has a good free spreadsheet program. Apple uses Numbers, is the name of their spreadsheet program. But there's a free one you can download if you don't have one, and you'll find that at openoffice.org. The OpenOffice suite is an open source suite of programs just like Microsoft Office. You get a spreadsheet and a word processing program, and the functionality is almost identical. It's a really great free program. So if you don't have Excel, go ahead to openoffice.org and you'll see that link just below me here, and also in the description of the video. Download that suite of software, follow all the on-screen prompts to get that up and running, and then once you've done that, pause your video, go do that, and then come on back and we'll be ready to go. So I'm going to head off to my computer and we'll kick this off. So I hope you enjoy the basic beginner Excel tutorial. Thank you. Okay, welcome to the Excel tutorial. I am at my computer now. You should be at yours as well. YouTube, of course, is running, and you want to start Excel. Now, there's 2 ways you can display this for yourself. You can have split screen, so YouTube running on one side and Excel running on the other side, or you can have YouTube running in one tab and Excel running in a second tab, which is probably easier. Then you can flip back and forth and pause your YouTube and go into Excel to try the things that we're talking about. So you should have Excel installed or your equivalent spreadsheet program. I'm going to open mine up. I have it in the taskbar down here, and there we go. Now once we open Excel, there's 3 main sections on the Excel on the home page, and that's where you generally will start. So up here you have Open, New, and Home. So if you have an existing spreadsheet, you can of course open that you're working on, create a new spreadsheet, which we're going to do today, and of course it takes you back to the Home tab. So that's section 1. Section 2, you have this section at the top here, and this is your templates. So you can find tutorials here. So welcome to Excel, drop down tutorial, formula tutorial. If you want to get deeper into Excel later on, you can certainly go ahead and do those. We're not going to do those today, of course, because we're going to work on our specific test project or sample project of making a costing sheet for the product that you're making. You also have this section here, and if you had or were working on a bunch of files, these files would be, your recent file list would be listed down here. I've gone and cleaned my list off so it didn't look all messy. And then when you're looking at your templates, you also have this box here, which is more templates. Okay, so if you click on that more templates box, that'll bring up all these options of templates you can use. What a template is, it's an Excel sheet that's already made for you for something that you want to accomplish. So if you wanted to do a monthly budget, for example, you could open a personal monthly budget template, and it'll have all categories on there and all your formulas pre-written, fancy colors and text boxes and all that kind of stuff where you just put in your information. So templates, there's lots of them. If you don't see a template that you'd like to use, you can go to this box here, which is the search for online templates, and you can simply enter your search query in this box here. So if you want, for example, a business plan, you could type that in there, hit enter, and it'll take you to any online templates that are available for business plans or whatever you want. So just something kind of cool. For today's purpose, we are going to create a new workbook, and that's right up here in the top left. And I'm going to left click inside blank workbook, and that's going to create a new workbook for us. And there we go. Now, before we get too deep into this, I do want to show you one thing. I like to work with a little bigger cells. So on the bottom right corner, right down here, you see a slider box, and that slider box increases or decreases the size of your spreadsheet. So 100% is the default. That's what you see on the screen. I like to work at 200%, so I'm going to move that up to 200% by hitting the plus key, and there I am at 200%. Now, working in any Microsoft program, there's multiple ways to do things. I'm just going to show you one or two generally, but you can, as you move around your spreadsheet and learn the different components, you will figure out different ways to do things. So we're going to do this tutorial in 3 sections. The first section is going to be learning our real estate of our program, so all of the components within the Excel program that are on the screen and that are available to us. Second component to this tutorial is going to be looking at cell manipulation with both data and formulas and how to do a bit of math. And then the third section of the tutorial is going to be to actually go ahead and do our costing sheet. The best way to learn something is to touch it, feel it, play with it, and get your hands dirty. So if you want to run through the actual creation of our sample project of making a costing sheet, I encourage you to do that, because that's going to go a long way in helping you to learn your program. So on the main screen here, once you open up your sheet, you have a number of sections. So we'll go through the top section first. So up here in the very top left, right, you have a little box that's going to give you your option to save or to save as, and then you can go back or forward. So if you make a mistake on something you've typed, or you want to go back a couple screens, you just hit the back key here, which is the little arrow pointing to the left. And it's grayed out right now, but also an arrow pointing to the right if we actually had some work in there. So you can go backwards or forwards. You always want to save your work. So you go to Save As, pick a file name, a location, and you want to save your work. Then once you've saved it in a location, you can simply hit the Save icon, and it'll just keep saving that for you. The second section that's important for us to know is this section right here. And this section is a tabbed section, all right? And what you have is if you have an old Excel program or an older spreadsheet program, this was called a menu bar. And when you click on the titles up here in this, what would be a menu bar, it'll bring down a drop-down box. Today it's a little different. You get a ribbon instead of a menu bar. We're going to talk about that in a second. And then your ribbon is right here, and each tab on your menu bar up top has a ribbon attached to it. Okay, So we're going to just go through a few of those things right now. So home has a lot of your basic functions. Then insert, when you hit insert, your next tab to the right, it opens up a new ribbon bar, and it has a bunch of icons on it. Page layout, a bunch of icons on it, and so on and so forth. So each tab up top has a list of corresponding icons in the ribbon down here, and they each perform a function to give you the ability to manipulate your data or your text or your spreadsheet in some way. All right. So when you're looking at your ribbon bar has sections, and they are separated by what are called separators. So right here is a separator, right here is a separator, right here is a separator. So it's separated into sections, and each section, so this is your clipboard section on your ribbon bar of your home tab. This is your font section, your alignment section, your number section. So if you want to deal with your fonts, here's your icons for that. Alignment, here's your icons for that. Number, here's your icons for that. And each time you open up a different ribbon, by clicking on the tabs up top, you'll get different choices, okay? And then what you'll also want to know is that if we're looking at just our font section, for example, which is this one right here. Oh, let me do that again. So right here, this is everything to do with fonts. All right. So if you want to have a little, or if you want to see more options for your fonts, at the bottom of each section, you have this little wee arrow pointing to the bottom right, which looks like it's in a box. You click on that. It's going to bring a drop-down box, and that's going to give you a lot more functionality within your font area. Okay, so then you can do that for each one of these sections on your ribbon. Right. So if I go to insert, you'll see a different set of icons, and page layout, different set of icons, and so on. Now, if you don't know what these little icons represent, some are pretty intuitive, or if you've worked in any Microsoft programs or many other programs, you'll know what they are. But you can hover over each of these, and they'll tell you what it is. So there's your font picker, pick a new font. All right, this is your font size, change the size of your text. And as I said, you can do things many ways. You can actually highlight this and put a new number in, 12, or you can pick a number from a drop-down box, or you can simply increase or decrease your numbers on the left-hand side here. Okay, so each of these icons has a function, some way for you to manipulate your text or your data, and you hover over it, and it'll tell you what it does. And that's the same for every single icon on every tab. So if I went to the review tab and I hovered over spell, although it's intuitive, typos not on our watch, let us check your spelling. Okay, so you just simply hover over it, and you can do that anywhere on your spreadsheet. Okay, so go back to the home tab here. The next, there's two things. So this is what we call in your working area. Okay, this up here, and you'll see all of these alpha characters. Right, those designate your columns. All right, and a column runs vertically, so that's column A, B, C, D, all the way down, and you have 16,384 of these. That's a lot of columns. If you need 16,384, you're probably doing something wrong. And then this, of course, are your rows. All right, and your rows run horizontally. And the reason you want to know that is because your working area in the center of your spreadsheet, and all data, all text, all numbers are going to be entered into your cells, and these are all cells, everything within that red line. Okay, so if you want to, all cells have a name. So if you look at this column C and this row 3, okay, and we'll deal with that cell right there. So if we look at this cell right here, it's in column C and it's in row 3. So the name of that cell is C3, okay? And if you wanted to look at This cell here, that's called B4 because it's in column B and in row 4. So the intersection of a column and a row is your cell name, okay? And how you can get some help on that is up here in this little box. This is called your name box, right? So when I put my cursor in this cell, which is B4, column B, row 4, it'll tell me up there I'm in cell B4. And it's important to be able to reference these cells, and you reference a cell by its name. So cell B4 will be referenced by B4. And to do math, you do math and do calculations by referencing cells, okay? So you need to know that. There's also a range of cells. So if I put my mouse button in B2, I hold my leftmost button down and pull the cursor down and let it go at B10. That's a range of cells, okay? And that range would be called B2 to or through B10. And how that would be represented by a name, it would be B2, full colon represents to or through B10. So this range of cells would be referenced as B2 through B10 or B2 to B10, okay? And that would cover that whole range. And ranges can be not only in a column, they can be in a row, or they can be in a column and a row. So that range there would be from B2 full colon or through to E8, okay? And that's what a range of cells is, and it's important to know that because we're going to deal with ranges when we start doing some of our math and our equations and learning how to do functions, which I'm going to teach you, which are really easy. So don't get too concerned about that right now. All right, you can select one column or you can select multiple columns. And how you do that is hold your left mouse button down and drag across columns, okay? You can do that for rows as well. Hold your left mouse button down and drag across columns. Or if you want to select everything in the entirety of your sheet, you click up here in the corner, you click it, and it'll select all of your spreadsheets. So I could turn my whole spreadsheet yellow, for example, if I wanted to by doing that, okay? You're going to have, this is a workbook, so when you open up an Excel workbook, it has a sheet in it, and this is a worksheet. If you want to have more than one worksheet, and there's many reasons you might want to do that. So if you're making a costing sheet for one of the products that you make, whether you're making soap or dog food, it doesn't matter. You know, peanut butter dog food, you might do a costing sheet on sheet 1, and that sheet 1 is right here, okay? But if you want more sheets, you can hit this little plus button, and you will get more sheets. So when I hit that, I now have 2 sheets, okay? And if I double click on a sheet, I can rename that to whatever I want. So this one's going to be dog food peanut butter. Okay, and then you can of course name this one, and you can have as many sheets as you want. All right. If you want to copy things from, if you want to make it your own template, and let's call this template 1, you can copy this whole template here by right-clicking up in the corner, and then you're going to go simply copy. You're going to move to your sheet 2. You're going to right-click in the corner and go paste, the very first paste. Okay, and now we have template 1 up here in sheet 2, so it looks just like sheet 1 except for the size, because we made our size bigger. All right, so you'll want to be able to work in multiple sheets. That's how you do it. All right. Template 1 and template 2. Okay, so when you are dealing with cells, you're going to have to be able to move around in these cells. And how you do that is you can hit the Tab key to move right, and you can hit the Shift Tab key to move left. Right? Now, if you want to go further to the right of the screen, you just keep hitting Tab, and it'll keep taking you as far as you want to go. And this, to go up and down, you can hit the Enter key to go down, or the Shift Enter to go up. And a lot of people will use the keyboard for that. in that Shift and Tab. I like to use the arrow keys, and you can move the cursor around with the arrow keys just as easy. So that's left arrow, right arrow, down arrow, and this is up arrow. All right, and then of course you can also move around by clicking within the cells, and you do the selection of a range of cells by holding it down and opening it up. Now, these cells are also expandable, and what that means is if I put something in here, and we'll just do a little text, that text has appears to be going over the edge of the cell. Okay, it's not. It's contained within the cell, and you know, if I type the same "hello world" in this cell, you'll see that you now see "hello world" in this cell. Okay, and if I click here, you see that in your function bar up top, and if I click on this one, you also see "hello world" in your function bar up top. So your function bar, which is this bar right here we're talking about, everything you type into a cell will be shown in that function bar. All right. Now, if you let me just get rid of this, and you can get clean cells out many ways. You can just hit your space bar, you can hit your delete key, you can right click and go clear contents. So there's many ways to clear cells out. Now if you want to get your hello world back in there, and you want to look a little better so you can actually see it, and you won't see it here now because we actually put data in that cell. If you hover your mouse between two cells, so this is B, arrow pointing down, this is C, arrow pointing down. If you hover your mouse between two cells, hold left click down, you can drag that cell, make it as big or as small as you want. Okay, so now this cell here, and if you hover over there, is 13.86 or 102 pixels. Okay, another way to manipulate the size of a column or a row, right click, column width, and you can type a number in. So we'll type the number 10 in there, and then that'll take that down to 10. Okay, there is a way to make, you know, your cell, all your cells match the largest word in there. I don't like that system because I always don't want my words touching the very edge of my cell, and I like to center stuff. So I would take that, center it, hello world's nice and even right in the middle of that cell. Okay, so it's not touching a border either on the right or the left. So that's just a real quick tutorial on how you move around in Excel. Some of the different things that are available to you in your ribbon and on your tabbed bar up top. And it'd be a good time now to take a break, pause your video, and go play with those things. Hover your mouse over stuff, see what they do. You can't break it. Once you come back, we'll get into section 2, which is learning how to actually manipulate data in our cells and do formulas. Okay, hopefully you had a chance to go ahead and look at some of your ribbons and your icons and work around your tabs and learn this spreadsheet a little bit. So what we're going to do in section 2 here is we're going to look at, start to look at numbers and text and how we manipulate that and how we do some basic formulas. And we're going to need basic formulas to make our costing sheet when we do our sample project. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the size of 3 of these cells or columns, A, B, and C, so I can have a little better screen for us to work with. So I'm going to go to column width, make it 6, hit enter, and those are a little smaller. Okay, and then I'm going to enter some numbers. So in A2, I'm going to enter the number 10. I'm going to tab over to B2 and enter the number 5. And I'm going to tab over to C2 and enter the number 2. Okay, so we have some basic numbers there, and the references are A2, B2, and C2, which of course you can see up in your name box. So I'm going to make this just a little bigger so we can not be working way up in the corner there. So there we go, that's a little better. Okay, So now I'm going to take my D column and I'm going to open that up just a little bit. And then I'm going to select the column and hit my center button. Okay, so anything that I put in here now is going to be centered. So we're going to start by working on basic math formulas. Now, all formulas in your spreadsheet program, it doesn't matter which program you're using, start with an equal sign. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put an equal sign in there. Now, when so what I'm going to do is going to add 10 plus 5. Okay, very simple math to start. So that's in cell A2 and cell B2. So put an equal sign in, and then put your cell reference of A2. Oh, A2. Now you notice that the A2 has gone blue, and the cell that it is referencing has also turned with a blue background. So that's how you know that you're working on a formula and that you're working on that cell. Okay, so that's helpful. This next step is going to put a plus sign in. So I put a plus sign, and now I want to add this together with cell B2 right here. Okay, this 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to put the cell name in there, or the cell reference where that 5 resides, which is B2, cell B2. So put B in there and a 2. And you'll notice now that this B2 has turned red, and this cell B2 has turned red, and we know we're working in B2, and we also know that your name box now has changed to sum, so you know that you're going to be adding some cells together. All right. So 8 is equal to A2 plus B2, and that's all we want to do to start with, a very simple formula for addition. And when I hit enter, we should see the number 15, because 10 plus 5 is equal to 15. So let's see what happens, and there we go. Look how simple that is. How great is that? All right, so we know how to do basic math. If I click back on this cell, you don't see the formula you just typed in there because I'm clicking on the cell. So when I click once in a cell, I'm clicking on the cell. In other words, I'm giving it focus. I'm highlighting it. If I want to work within the cell, I want to be in the cell by either double clicking on it, and then when I do that, it brings our formula back, and now I could move my cursor around and I can manipulate the data in that cell. All right, I can also do that by giving the cell focus. So I've given cell D2 focus. I could do this up here in my formula bar, and I did call that the function bar. It's not. It's the formula bar. And your formula bar, anything you type into a cell is going to appear in this formula bar up top here. Okay, this is actually your function bar beside it right there, but we're not doing functions today with using the bar. Okay, so we know how to do some basic math. Now if I wanted to turn this into subtraction, I'm going to simply go A2, and the sign for subtraction is the subtraction sign, minus B2. Now we know that that should give us a result of 5. So when I hit, so 10 minus 5 is 5, so when I hit my enter key, there we go. How great is that? We've got a 5 in there. Okay, so addition and subtraction, very simple. Let's try some multiplication division. So the multiplication sign is the asterisk, which is located on the top of your number 8 key. So when I hit shift 8, that gives me an asterisk. That's the key for multiplication. Okay, so now 10 times 5, when I hit enter, is going to be 50. Oh, there it is. All right, wonderful. Okay, and then I'm going to double click back in here, and the last one we're going to do is division. Now division is a front slash. Okay, that's a front slash, the one that starts in the top right and goes to the bottom left. If you put a backslash in like this one, which starts in the top left and goes to the bottom right, you're going to be in trouble. It's not going to work. All right, so you have to put a front slash in there. And 10 divided by 5 is 2. So when I hit enter, that should put a 2 in that box. And let's see how we did. There it is. All right, how great is that? Okay, so basic math functions. So it's a plus is your plus sign, minus is your minus sign, multiplication is your asterisk, and division is your front slash, which is that one. Okay, so that's all you need to know to do any of those 4 mathematical functions. So how easy is that? All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at order of operations. So order of operations in math works the same way. It doesn't matter if you're doing conventional math or math on an electronic device. I'm going to clear this cell out here. I'm just going to hit the backspace to clear this stuff out. Now, if I wanted to add 10, cell A2, plus 5, cell B2 for 15, and then multiply it by 2 in cell C2 for a result of 30, you might think you just simply put your cell references in. So if you went like this, A10 plus, oh, sorry, that's A2 plus B2 times C2. I can't remember if I mentioned this, but I like to use capitals. You don't have to. You can just type the alpha character. Now you would think that that might equal our 30. So A2 plus B2 should be 15 times C2 should be 30. So let's see what happens when we do that. Uh-oh, we got a 20 in there. There's a problem. So why is that? It's because mathematical equations have what's called an order of operations. And an order of operations means it solves multiplication and division first, then it solves your addition and subtraction. So what's happening in our formula here is it's first multiplying B2 times C2, which is 5 times 2 to give you 10, and then it's adding A2, or your addition, to the result. So it's doing multiplication first, then addition. So that's going to be a problem because that's not a right number. So how you force the order of operations, and if you want to accomplish math or addition and subtraction before multiplication and division, you simply put some brackets around the equation that you want to be solved first. So when I do that, now 10 plus 5 is going to happen first, or A2 plus B2 gives a result of 15, and then it's going to multiply it by C2, or 2, to give us a result of 30. Okay, let's take a look at that and see how we did. There's our 30. Okay, so common mistake. You always want to put your brackets in if you're trying to force order of operations. Okay, and there's our 30. So just quick recap. You absolutely want to put an equal sign in. Let me try that again. Okay, so you want to put an equal sign in every single equation. That's how you start an equation. And then it's a cell reference. In this case, it's A2. And then it's your function that you want to accomplish, either addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. You put the symbol in there by your second cell reference, and then a third or fourth or fifth, whatever you want. Okay, so it's a very simple formula. So it's equal cell reference plus cell reference, and you're good to go. Okay, so I'm going to clear this out again, and I want to show you, I guess, a little more complicated on a few things here. Now, what if you wanted to add up all 3 of these and bring the 2 in there as well? Okay, so one way to do that is to go, I'm going to give that focus and work inside it. So I'm going to go equal, would be A2 plus B2 plus C2. Now that's going to add up all 3 of those numbers together to give us a result of 17. 10 plus 5 plus 2 is 17. And when I hit enter, and why didn't that do that? That's because I had a space in front of my equal sign. All right, so remember we said we have to have all these lit up. And now when I hit enter, I've got my 17. Okay, so that's the long way around things. What if you had numbers that went from A all the way to Z or W, and you had a whole column of numbers that you wanted to add up? All right, there's a shortcut formula for that, and we're going to talk about that next because we're going to use these skills when we make a costing sheet. So when you're going to do addition of more than 2 cells, you generally want to put an equal sign in, and you want to type the word sum. Okay, and sum is going to add up the sum of a range of cells, and then you want to put a bracket in. And in our case, we're working in A10 or A2, so we want to take our 10, our 5, and our 2 and add them together. So we're going to go 2. And then to have a range of cells, you have to put a full colon. All right, so that means through or to C2 is where we're going to go to. Okay, and then you want to finish that with a bracket. So what's happened here now is how you read that formula. It says in cell D2, I want it to equal the sum or the addition of the cells A2 through C2. So I want to take all these three right here, okay? And when I hit enter, we should get our result of 17. And there it is, okay? So that's the shortcut to add up more than one cell, so, or two cells. So if you had 30 cells in a line, you could add them all up that way using that formula, okay? And that's that's pretty simple, all right? And that's important to know because it's going to save you a lot of time. Now, when you're doing formulas, they don't have to be adjacent to the numbers. So you see we're working in cell D4, which is, D2, which is adjacent. I can certainly put in my formula here. So it's equal to the sum of A2 through 2, C2, and finish off my formula. Okay, there's my 17. I can go over here, and I can go equal to the sum of A2 full colon, which means through or to C2, finish my formula off with the bracket. I hit enter, and I have the same result. So they don't have to be side by side, and that's important to know as well. Okay, so that's a little bit about that. Now, I want to show you, so that's basic math. So let's talk about manipulating numbers and data a little bit. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in here, and I'm going to put hello world in here. So that fits nice and even. I've got it centered. So if you're in your home tab, you can see that I have it centered with the center icon. I could have it left justified, I could have it right justified, or I could have it in the center. Now you won't see that because it fits perfectly in the height. So if I wanted to increase the size of this hello world, I'm going to put it back to center, I can go up here and I can type a number, or I can go down here and choose a number. So when you're working in, if you're going to make text within a cell larger than the border of the cell itself on its height, it'll automatically increase the cell size for you. So if I went to 18, you see how that increases? If I went to 48, see how it increases your row height? Okay, so it does that automatically for you. It doesn't increase your column width. You'd have to go ahead and do that manually. Okay, so let's just have fun and do that. So if I hit, I'm going to do this at 26. Now you see that extends to both sides of it. If I left justified, it would extend to the right. And if I right justified, it would extend to the left. Okay. If I want to fit, I'd simply go between D and E and pull my column out a little more. Now there we go. That's real pretty again. Okay. So that's how that happens. I'm just backspacing now to get back to where I was. Now let's talk about this. Oh, and I can bold this, of course, and I can underline it, and I can change its color. So all of those icons up at the top can help you accomplish all those different kinds of things. I'm going to talk about a number now. So if that's a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I want to turn that into, say, currency, that's real easy to do as well. All right. So if you look up here in your number section, and that's right here. Okay. I can do all kinds of manipulations on that number up here. So right now it's a general number. That's what that tells you. If I were to turn that into a currency, I'd simply go down here and select currency. And there you go. So now that's 12,345. I can turn that back into a number. And I can increase or decrease my decimal points here, or here, or here, or to no decimal points. Okay. I can turn that into a percentage. I can also add just a $ sign if I wanted to. Okay, so that's kind of cool how that works. Now, if you want to manipulate numbers at a little deeper level, you click on that little box that we talked about right here. Just make sure that's pretty clear for us. This box right here, all right? You click on that, and that opens up a greater number of selections for you. And there, now you can do a whole bunch of things in here. So here's all your number drop-down box where you can choose, you can make it into a time or percentage, a fraction, anything you want to do. You can increase or decrease your decimal points here. You can use a separator or not use a separator, being the comma. And you can also look into this box for your alignment, your border. There's all kinds of stuff you can do there. Okay, so that's manipulating numbers, and you're going to want to be fairly skilled at that, because some numbers you're going to want a dollar sign when you're doing costs. If you're putting a costing sheet together like we're going to do, we're going to be using some raw materials that are measured 1/10 to a gram, so you're going to want 1 decimal point, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of important that you know how to do that. All right. And then, of course, in your Hello World, you can change your font to anything you want. And one thing you'll notice, and actually let me make that a little clearer for you. If I put my sheet over here, you'll be able to see it. When you're choosing a font, you can actually see your actually, I'm going to change that here. So I'm going to cut this out of here, and I'm going to paste this into this cell. And how I did that was I right-clicked, I hit cut, I right-clicked, I hit paste. Okay, so if you want to choose pretty fonts, you can, as you hover over the different fonts style, you have to have that box highlighted. As you hover over your different fonts, you will see what they look like in your cell. So there we go. Hello World. There's the Algerian font. Okay, so and you have all these font selections. So that's kind of cool to make real pretty looking sheets. Okay, so that's something you'll probably want to know. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get out of all this stuff. Okay, I could have just simply right-clicked here and went clear contents. Okay, so that's available as well. All right, so there's a little bit about math, a little bit about how we work within our cells, a little bit how we manipulate alpha characters, titles, text. So now what we're going to do in section 3 is we're going to go ahead and actually make a costing sheet. And be great to follow along with that, because as I said, feeling it, touching it, using it, that's great. So if you want to go and play with a little bit of your math, try some formulas, again, you can't break anything, feel free to do that. Pause your YouTube video, go play around, and then come on back. Okay, we're back. So we're going to put what we've learned into practice now. And the best way to learn anything, of course, is to actually go ahead and do it. So in our Excel spreadsheet, we're going to create a costing sheet. Now, this video is a companion video to So You Want to Be a Soap Maker and how to do a costing sheet. So we're going to create a costing sheet to cost out 1 bar of soap, all right? And that's how what we're going to look at. So we're going to be dealing with some raw materials. I'll just pull this picture up here for you. So this is what our recipe looks like. And we need the information on this recipe in order to make our costing sheet. So what you'll notice, and I'll just point out a few things on here, if you want to take a screenshot of this, go ahead, or a snippet and print it out if you are going to follow along and actually enter the numbers. And you could use this template that we're going to make for any kind of costing. It doesn't matter what you're making. If you're doing candles, knitted materials, soap, it doesn't matter. So what we have here is, here's my raw materials. Okay, so I have on here I have palm oil, olive oil, coconut, castor, stearic acid. Okay, I'm going to use this many grams. Okay, and I'm also going to use some water, some lye, which is here, and this is how many grams I'm using, and then I have some additives down here. So we're going to enter these things into our spreadsheet with their weights. And then we're going to calculate these raw materials for 1 bar. And this here is for 4 bars of soap. So we're going to have to go ahead and figure out how to turn that into 4 bars to 1 bar, which is real easy, which we'll show you as we go through here. So that's the sheet that we are going to use for our recipe. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is when I'm making anything in Excel, I like to start in cell B2 as my top left corner. And the reason for that, if you put borders around your work, I like to have those clearly defined, and they're not if you start up here in A1. So what I do is I start in B2, and then I just cut this down to about 1.5, 1.7 in that range to cut that one down. And then I also move row 1 up to be about the same. So we'll go there. So that's going to be my starting point. So first thing we're going to do with our costing sheet is put in a title, right? So this happens to be, and I'm just going to type that into cell B2. So it's lavender soap costing sheet, and it is for 1 bar that is 125 grams. Okay, and that's the size of the bar that this is going to make, and it's going to make 4 bars. Okay, but we're doing our costing sheet for 1 bar. All right, next thing I want to do is I want to put in some headers, and we'll make it look nice and pretty in a second here. So I want to have my item, which I'm going to put in here. Next column, I'm going to want to have my units, and we're working in grams in this case. Next column, I'm going to want to have my cost per unit. And my next column, I'm going to want to have my total cost. Okay. So there we go, some headers and some titles, and again in a second we're going to make that look real nice. Okay. All right, and then coming down, give myself a space, I'm going to have raw materials. That's going to be one of the categories that we're tracking. And in my raw materials, I have palm oil, and I'm taking this from my recipe. Okay. I've got olive oil. We're going to be using coconut oil. And we're going to be using castor oil. We're going to have some stearic acid. That helps to make your bars of soap a little harder. We're going to have some water we're going to use, of course. That costs money. We're going to have some lye, which is caustic soda. Some kaolin clay is going to be in our soap. All of these things have a cost attached to them. Lavender essential oil. It's going to give us our pretty lavender scent, and elconate powder is going to give us a pretty purple color in our soap. Okay, so those are all of our raw materials that we're going to use. Now, I would like to have a space between my item bar up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit 4, and I'm going to hit insert row. Okay, and so I hit column 4. Row 4, I right-clicked, I put insert row. So I got an extra row in there. Again, I just like things to look a little pretty with some spacing. We're also going to have some packaging, so I'm going to put packaging in here. And then in my packaging, I have a label, and I have a baker's tissue, and that's what I'm going to wrap my soap in. And then I'm going to have some other costs. I'm going to put those here. And other costs are going to be labor. It's going to cost some money to make the soap and labor, and I'm going to put other costs in, and these other costs I'm putting in here are to cover things like electricity, stationery, I mean anything that you spend money on in the production of a bar of soap. You could certainly, of course, keep going with categories and put any categories you want in there, or even break the other category out. For this purpose and for brevity, we're not going to do that. So now I've got a basic outline of what I'm going to do, but I want to make this kind of start to look pretty now. Okay, so what I want is I want everything that's in cell B or in column B to fit. And you see my essential oil goes over a little bit here. So I'm going to move the column B out to my longest type text, and that's going to fit in there real nice. Okay, and then my units are going to be small because we're working in grams, so we're just going to leave that size. And then this one here, cost per unit, I could either leave that as it is and have a larger cell, or I could have hit an enter and made that cell twice the size and had it on top of each other, but I don't like that, so I'm going to leave that just how it is. I'm just going to give it a little space. So there we go. Okay, perfect. All right, and then we're going to have a total cost, and our total cost, we'll give that a little bit of space as well, just like that. And then what I like to do is I like my items on the left, and I like these 3 cells centered. So I'm going to go up to the center. There we go. And then I'm going to hold down on B3, highlight by left clicking and pulling over. I want this to be bold. All right. I also want it to be a little bigger, so we're going to make that 12. On my title, what I'm going to do, is this something new you're going to learn here? Okay. And you might hear some dogs moving in the background. We have 8 Maremma sheepdogs, and they're barking at something. Listen to me, not them. So on our title, I want to have that centered. I want it larger, and I want it bold. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it bigger. So I'm going to make that 16. All right, then I'm going to bold it. Okay, and then you see how that might be a little big. I don't want to go too far past our sheet here. Let's open that cell up a bit there. Okay, perfect. Open that up a bit. Just making it look good. And there we go. Okay. And then if this was a small title and I wanted it centered, how you do that, this is something new you're going to learn. You're going to hold the B2 down, left click, drag it across, and I'm going to merge these cells into one. And if you look up here in your alignment tab, merge and center, I'm just going to click that, and that thing just turned this cell into a single large cell, and it merged it up. Okay, and that's going to be, it's going to look prettier when we clean this up at the end here. All right, so what we have is our raw materials in here. So my main titles, I like to the left. So I'm going to left justify that. I'm going to left justify packaging. I'm going to left justify other costs. And now I'm going to select, and I could have done that by selecting all of them at the same time. So what you do is you hold your control key down. You can select anything you want. And then I'm going to bold those. And there we go. Okay. Now, on my raw materials, I like them to the right. And again, this is just making things look pretty. So I'm going to hold my mouse button on B6, left click, hold it down, highlight that range of cells, right? We talked about a range of cells. And I'm going to right justify that. So I'm going to click right here and move those over to the right. Okay, so that looks real nice. And I'm going to do the same thing with these ones, move them to the right, and with these ones, move them to the right. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere, all right? That's good. And then I'd like to have lines in here. So I'm going to select everything that's within our working area, which takes us right down, not too far, to here. Actually, we're going to add one more thing in here. And I'm just going to add total cost, because we're going to want a total in there, total cost. Okay, and then I'm going to bold that as well and make that the same size as these ones. And these are going to go to 12. I'm going to have these titles at 12, or these headings. Okay, and these are 12. That's perfect. Okay, so that's starting to look pretty good. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put some lines in now because I find it easier to work with lines. So I'm going to grab my top cell up here in B2, and I'm going to drag it down to capture my total cost over here and end at E25. Okay, so I've highlighted that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my font section and go to my border icon, and I'm going to put borders all the way around. All right, and that just makes it look good. It helps us define a little bit more of what we're working on. We'll clean these borders up as we go. I'd like to have this as a thicker, stronger border, so thick outline border. I'm going to select that one. That's going to give me a thick outline border, and the entirety of all the outside of my sheet, I like to have a thick border. So we'll choose thick border for there as well. Okay, so you see we've got a little thicker border now on the outside and on our main ingredients list here. So now what I have to do is, that looks nice, that gives us a good template to work with, and now we're going to start doing some math. So if you look at, if you are working along and you look at our recipe, On our palm oil, you know that there is 171 grams. That's for 4 bars. We're doing a costing sheet for 1 bar. So all we're going to do is put a formula in there. We're going to go palm oil for 1 bar equals 171 divided by 4. Okay? And that's going to give us our amount of palm oil for a single bar. And that 171 came from our recipe. That's how much, okay? So we know that we're going to use 42.75 ounces of palm oil, all right? Now, because we're only working to 1/10 of a gram, we don't need to have 2 decimal places here. So I'm going to right-click on the column C, okay? And I'm going to go to Format Cells. Again, you can do this up in your ribbon bar as well. I happen to like to right-click and go into the actual menu. And I'm going to go into the Number tab. And it's going to be a number, but I only want 1 decimal place. So I'm going to click that right there. Oh, it's going the wrong way. 1 decimal place, and I'm going to go OK. So see, now I just have 1 decimal place there. And I'm going to keep that, I'll keep that right justified to the right there. I'm going to open this column just a bit. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put all these numbers in. So olive oil, we have 144 grams, so equal 144 divided by 4. That's how much olive oil we have. And my coconut oil is 90 grams, so 90 grams divided by 4. And we're dividing it by 4 because 90 grams is for 4 bars, and we're costing 1 bar. Castor oil is 36 grams. So it's going to be equal to 36 divided by 4. And what's next here? Stearic acid, we have only 9 grams. So we're going to go equal to 9 divided by 4. All right. Water, we have 157.5 grams. So we're going to go equals to 157.5 divided by 4. All right. 39.4 grams of water. And our lye, or caustic soda, 63.31 grams, 63.31. And if you're making soap, you want to get that right because you don't want hot soap. And that gives us to 15.8 for a single bar. Kaolin clay, which I find down in my additives, is 4 grams. And I could just put a 1 in here because we know 4 divided by 4 is 1. But we'll stick with our formula. So we got 4 grams divided by 4 bars is 1 gram per bar. Our essential oil is 13.5 grams. So we're going to go 13.5 divided by 4. And our alkanet powder is 1/4 teaspoon. And we're just going to put a 1 in here because it's too small to actually measure it to grams. So we're just going to put 1 gram in there. I actually just end up putting a teaspoon and a half in. So there we go. Now let's go down to our packaging section. We know we have 1 label for 1 bar of soap. We know we have 1 label for 1 bar of soap. We know we have 1 tissue for 1 bar of soap. Okay. Now my labor, we're going to have 1 labor unit. And we're going to have 1 other unit. Now, because these aren't raw materials with fractions, I'm just going to take that out because I like to have it with no decimal places on those items down there. All right, so that's real easy. So what we have is we have how much of each of these items go into 1 bar of soap. All right. Now we have to put our unit costs in, and this is where it gets a little tougher, and you don't have this information. But I know, for example, that my palm oil, I pay $26 for 5,000 liters. So I want to come up with a cost per gram, right? So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to put my equal sign in, and I'm going to take $26. I'm going to divide that by 5,000 grams, and it's 5 kilogram buckets I buy, but that's 5,000 grams. I'm going to put enter, and that's my cost for 1 gram of palm oil, okay, which is a fraction of a penny for a gram, all right. Olive oil, I know I pay $22, so I'm going to take my $22 and divide it by, I buy that in 3 kilogram buckets, which is 3,000 grams. I'm going to put that number in there. So there's my cost for, now see we've got a lot more decimal places here. So I want to see this one to 4 decimal places. So I'm going to right click on D up top here, format cells, turn that into a number, and make that 4 decimal places. Okay, so that cleans that up and makes that look a lot more pretty. All right, now we're going to add our coconut oil in, and we know our coconut oil is $28. So it's equal to $28 divided by, and it comes in 3,000 grams, or 3 kilograms. And my olive oil actually comes in 5,000, I just saw there. So it's going to be 5,000 or 5 kilograms. All right, my castor oil is $26.20 for 4,000 grams, equal to 26.20 divided by 4,000. Okay. My stearic acid is $9.69 for 1,000 grams, or 1 kilogram. Okay, so put that number in there. My water is $2.25 for 5 kilograms. So 2.25 divided by 5,000. That gives me my cost per gram of water. My lye is $78 for 25 kilograms, which is 25,000 grams. So that's equal to 78 divided by 25,000. So there's my cost per gram for my lye. And my kaolin clay is $6.50, so it's equal to 6.5 divided by, and it comes in 1 kilogram cartons. There's kaolin clay. My essential oil, which is my lavender essential oil, is $128, and it comes in a 1 kilogram bottle, or 1,000 grams. So there's my cost for my lavender essential oil. And my alkanet powder is $1.2 for 100 grams. All right, so there's my, oh, I forgot my equal sign. So I'll just go up here, put an equal sign in, and enter that. Okay. My labels are $51.50 for 1,000 of them. So I'm going to go equals 51.50 divided by 1,000. There's my cost for my labels. Okay, my baker's tissues, I know I pay $7, so it's equal to $7.50, and there's 1,000 in a box. So I'm going to divide that by 1,000, which gives me my cost per baker's tissue. Now, labor is, I'm going to pay $15 an hour, and I'm going to make 160 bars per hour. Okay, so that's going to be equal to $15 an hour, and I'm going to divide that by my hourly production of 160 bars. So that's going to tell me it's going to cost me just a little over 9 cents per bar to make my soap and labor, paying $15 an hour. And other costs, I'm putting 12 cents in here. It doesn't matter what they are for this purpose. Just know that my other costs are 12 cents per bar. Okay, so it costs me, about 20 bucks an hour, and I make about 160 bucks, or so 160 bars in that hour. So that $20 covers my electricity, with my lights and my power and my heat and all of my stationery and anything that you spend money on, market fees, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so what we have here is we've now completed our cost per unit. So we know that we're using these many units in grams or in items, and we know this is the cost per gram, which is right here, or the cost per item, which is, no, that's not going to work. Okay, so last thing we have to do is we have to do some math, because if I'm using 42.8 grams of palm oil, and I know they cost 0.0052 cents a gram, I'm simply going to multiply those two numbers together to give me my cost of palm oil for 1 bar of soap. So I'm going to click here in cell E6, and I'm going to go, this is equal to C6. Okay, so it's going to be equal to, oh, that's messed up. It's going to be equal to C6 times, and that's our multiplication, the asterisk, D6. And I'm going to put D6 in there. Now I should be able to just hit enter, so we see that our C6 is being picked up. We see our D6 is being picked up, and it's a multiplication. So when I hit enter, there we go. I can see that my palm oil cost me 22.23 cents per bar. Now we want to turn this one into a number, right? So I'm going to turn that into currency. So I'm going to right click on my E, and don't forget you can do that up in your home screen in your number section. But we develop habits. I like to go into the actual drop down box. So I've right clicked on the E column. I'm going to go to format cells. I'm going to turn this into currency. I'm going to use 2 decimal places, and I'm going to have a dollar sign in there. Okay, so now it's a nice pretty 22 cents, right? Now instead of having to write this formula all the way down here, here's another show. You certainly could do that. So the next one would be C7 times D7, which would be these 2 cells here. There's a shortcut, so I'm going to pull my mouse button down. So I'm left clicking on the cell E6 and pulling my mouse button way down to the bottom. And if you go push it past your screen there, it'll keep going, okay? And I'm going to let go of that, and I'm going to hit Control D, all right? So I'm holding the Control key down, and I'm going to hit D. When I did that, it took that formula and populated it all the way down my spreadsheet, so I didn't have to go and do all that math myself. So when I look at this one here, it should be C7 times D7, and this, don't forget, this one here was C6, right? So we're in row 6 times D6. This one should be C7 times D7, and sure enough, there it is. So the program was smart enough to know to change the row numbers as it went down. Now on these empty rows I'm just going to hit my space bar and clean those out because I don't need any numbers in there. Okay, so now we have the individual costs for all of my items on our sheet. So we've got 2 cents for stearic acid, 1 cent for kaolin clay, 1 cent for alkanet powder, 5 cents for our label, 1 cent for our tissue, 9 cents per bar for our labor, and 12 cents per bar for our other costs, right? So there they all are. So now here's the magic number that we've been working to get to. We want to add all these columns, we want all the E column up, which is going to give us our total cost per bar, right? So how you do that is you go to your first cell, which is E6. Okay, we're going to cover the range of cells now. And we're going to go down to E23, our last number. So how you do that is you go and put that sum in there. So you go equals to the sum bracket of E6 to or through, which is a full colon, E23, which is our last cell with any data in it. We're going to finish our bracket off, and I'm going to hit enter. And there we go. So now we know that 1 bar of soap, and there's the magic number right there, costs $1.46. And that's how easy that was. How spectacular is that? So I'm going to decrease the size a little bit here. So I'm down in my right corner, and I'm going to decrease it back to something so I can see the whole sheet. Okay, so I can see my whole sheet there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it pretty. Okay, so what I want is I might want to take these lines out of here. Actually, I'll leave those in. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to make it, because we're working with the lavender soap, I'm going to try and put a pretty purple in there. That's a little dark, so we're going to go to more colors. And we're going to go to a nice little purple. And see what that is. Is that purple? I don't know. That looks purple to me. We're going to go with that. So there's a nice purple in there. And that's a little dark. Let's try something more along this line. I think that, well, it's more like pink. Oh, wrong one. Okay, I have to be on the cell that I want to work with. So I'm just going to change that up there a little bit. And change that to that pink. There we go. Pretty pink. I'm going to call that purple. But for this purpose it's pink. My total cost down the bottom here, I'm going to increase that because that's an important number. All right, and I'm going to bold it up. That's what we're actually working towards. That gives us our final answer that we wanted. So I think that's pretty nice. It's looking good, and it's got everything we need on it, and it achieved our goal of finding out how much a single bar of soap costs us. So I can go ahead and now make my 160 bars per hour times my 18 hours per day and make my million. All right, so that's what we're going to do. All right, so that's kind of a quick run through on putting some of the tools we learned to practice, and it's just amazing what you can accomplish. And if you are starting a home-based business, or an artisan crafting business, or any kind of business, everything that you sell has costs attached to it, and you need to know what those costs are. So this is a real simple way to figure that out. You could certainly go through and make a sheet like this with your own raw materials, your own labor costs, and all the other costs that you have, and know how much your item costs you to make, and then you can know how much to sell it for. All right, so there we go, a quick costing sheet. If you enjoyed this tutorial, it's part of the Starting a Small Business series that I'm running. And please subscribe to the channel and hit that thumbs up button. That kind of helps me a little bit as well. I do have some links down below, and that's at the bottom of the video, that will take you to some interesting links that you might want to take a look at. And please also, if you'd like to hit that little bell thing that's there, that will let you know when I do release other videos. So please subscribe, and please like the video, and that'll help me to continue to make videos for you. All right, so that concludes our basic beginner Excel tutorial with the sample project of making a costing sheet. So all of you aspiring soap makers can get to work now and start making and selling soap at a profit, because you know what it costs you. Thank you very much for joining today. Okay.